Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me again for our MEA-LCS Q&A series. Today, we will be joined by Dr. Robert Booker of Mississippi State Extension, Mississippi State University. We were going to be joined by Dr. Megan Holmes, but she was unable to join us today, and she suggested Dr. Booker. And we are pleased and thrilled to have him with us. And of course, I'm Jennifer Joseph with Hancock County Extension, and I'm thrilled that you all are joining us today. And our topic is physical fitness. And this is the time of year where everyone is in the gym or outside running, if the pollen allows them to, trying to get fit for the beach or vacation so they can hike and just enjoy their summers. So I guess we'll delve right in. Dr. Booker, if you have anything to add before we get started.
No, ma'am. Sounded good.
All righty. So our first question that was submitted, and remember, please, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will get to them as soon as possible. So our first question was, how much physical activity is recommended for an adult on average?
Okay, so there's a few different ways adults can meet the physical activity guidelines. The easier way is at moderate intensity, which is anything that really gets your heartbeat elevated. So something like walking, maybe jogging, something where as you're moving, you can still maintain a conversational pace, and getting 150 minutes of that intensity physical activity per week. So the way we best recommend that is 5 days a week, get 30 minutes. So good examples are just walk your dog for 30 minutes, or you can join the Zumba class at the rec center, or start a walking group. Just something where you kind of get your heart elevated a little bit, but not too hard. Or we can increase that intensity. So think instead of like a walk, we're running pretty hard, or we're playing something like a full court basketball game. And that would be closer to that vigorous intensity physical activity. And we only need half as much of that to see the same benefits. So 75 minutes per week of vigorous intensity physical activity. So that's just on the aerobic or like the cardio side of physical activity. Then we also recommend at least 2 days per week of muscle strengthening activity, encompassing all the major muscles of the body. So like your chest, your back, your legs, your core, and just doing enough to where you're putting them under a little more strain than you do in your typical day-to-day life. So something like a push-up or a sit-up, or if you've got the machines at the gym where you take the pin and then you put them into the machine, like those work fine as well, to where you can just doing something is better than nothing. And that's what we really recommend for adults. At the end of the day, if you get 49 minutes, we're still happy. It's just move more and sit less.
Right. It's interesting that you broke it down, to those 30 minutes a day, because sometimes we hear 150 minutes and we're like, how in the world are we going to fit 150 minutes of physical activity into our life?
Exactly.
But when you just break it down to 30 minutes a day, hey, anyone can take a 30-minute walk,
Yeah, and even if like you're just starting out, I'm not a big runner or a walker, and you had to work up to it. So I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with like, oh, you have to get it in at least 10 minutes or it doesn't count. Like that's old science. Now, if you get it in 6 sessions of 5 minutes, like you're able to fit in a 5-minute walk every hour or two at work. Like that adds up, and we're happy that people are getting that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that, oh my goodness, that's so informative. So even if you break it down to 5 minutes, y'all, into 5 minute sessions every day. So if you walk 6 times for 5 minutes, you've gotten in your 30 minutes of physical activity a day. And
Yep.
like that makes it seem so much more manageable. And you mentioned something about weights. How you mentioned the ones that you stick the pin in at the gym. How are those in comparison with free weights? Like, does one benefit you more or less, or are they pretty much the same?
There's some nuances. There's some real subtle differences between the two. If you're just starting out, go for the machines. They're safer. It controls kind of like in what directions you can move, so you can't really get out of position and hurt yourself. You're not underneath the weights, so if you do add too much weight and you're unable to do it, it's safer because the weight's not going to fall on you. It falls within the machine, how it was designed. But doing free weights works more of the body because you have to control it within the range of motion and the direction in which you're moving it. So like for a bench press, you're able to go a little bit left and right if you have a dumbbell, or if you're on a machine, you can only go up and down.
Right.
So it's if you're just starting with resistance training, it's better to not have an ego and just go in and get on your machine. They're perfectly fine for everyday people just trying to maintain their health and build some muscle.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we touched on adults getting at least 150 minutes of physical activity a week. How does it differ in our children?
Yeah, so kids, we want them to be more physically active. So we recommend children get an hour a day of that aerobic physical activity. So, just anything that's really going to be fun for them is the big thing. The same thing with adults. If it's not fun, we're not going to do it, right? If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. Especially if you don't enjoy it and it's like physically tiring, right? So try to make it fun for the kids so that way they have fun with the physical activity and they maintain doing it as they get older. But for the time, we want them to do an hour a day at that modern intensity. And then 3 of those days of a week, the 3 of the 7, we want them to try to hit vigorous. So really heart pounding, breathing heavy. And just like the 5-minute session 6 times a day, like you can get some minutes of moderate in a day and you can get some minutes of vigorous in that same day. Just as we kind of total it out throughout the week, we want 3 hours or so of that whole 7 hours to have been at a vigorous intensity.
Okay.
We also want them to do at least 3 days per week of muscle strengthening. So just something where they kind of have to overcome gravity. So like climbing stairs is a really easy way to get muscle strengthening in. Luckily, we also, our kids like to jump around and run. Like those are high impact exercises. And what those do is those help to strengthen and grow bone mass. So that's going to help the kids with their bones, their muscles, and their heart and lungs. So we recommend kids get about twice as much physical activity per day as an adult.
Okay. And you mentioned that bone strength. That's so important, especially in our women. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So resistance training exercises like lifting weights will build bone mass. but impact exercises such as jumping and running, where there's actual, like the striking of the body part onto a surface, that's going to increase the force that goes into the bone more. And the more force, the more it has to adapt and grow to be able to overcome that stimulus. So, and it's the same thing, like after a while, doing 10 pounds on squat becomes too easy. You have to go up to 15. So it's the same thing, and our bones act the same way. So we really want to push forward on bone health with women around the time they start to menstruate. So as soon as that starts, so much earlier than I feel a lot of people think. A lot of people think of, like an elderly woman, kind of hunched over, maybe she falls and breaks her hip, but that issue of needing to worry about bone mass and bone strength starts much earlier in life.
Very interesting, because it seems like they do limit it to the older group of women and not our younger women. So thank you for sharing it. That's something for all of us to take into account.
Yeah. So with most of this stuff, like why we recommend it more physical activity with children is because it's much easier to start and get a head start on all these things. Start with a good set of cardio fitness, start with a good base of strength or bone density, and then just maintain. It takes a lot less work to maintain our health benefits than it does to gain them.
Amen to that. That is so true, because once you get older and you're trying to change lifestyle habits that you've done for years, it's so difficult because you're breaking those habits and then you're trying to build your body up to a completely different temperance level. So that is so true. So true. So it looks like Ellen has a question that needs to come in from our audience. Miss Lily Wash, I know 20 pounds doesn't sound like much, but I hurt my shoulder recently. So do I continue with less weight or hold off on the weights completely for a while?
Ooh, the first thing, and just to cover ourselves, is consult with your doctor. But in like a practical sense, if it hurts, don't do it. Just, you don't want to push it. You're not training for the Olympics. It's not the injury, or worsening the injury isn't worth the extra rep or the extra, 1 pound of added to your max or anything like that. So if when you do the movement it hurts, stop, go see your doctor. If not, like, you can get through it. I would definitely lighten up in the resistance training, so the weight. So maybe go to 10 pounds, because you don't want to just stop physical activity, unless your doctor tells you to. But if it's just something like, oh, it's a little sore, I overworked it a little bit, just back off a little bit. Still get the range of motion, get blood pumping into it, which just happens by working it. And you're starting to pump a lot of more nutrients into that muscle, which will help it heal. But again, definitely talk with your doctor to make sure if there's not something like structurally damaged in there that doing physical activity is going to continue to compound and make it worse.
Thank you. Are there any statistics that show, how sometimes we're actually sore and sometimes we're actually injured? So are there any statistics out there that show the continuation of lifting the weights after, like she said, she's experiencing some kind of pain? Like, what are the chances of it actually being an injury and them contributing to the injury? Like, is there anything out there for that?
I don't know of anything, but I would say, just in like personal experience, if when you do it, like you warm it up, like the area, and you do the movement, if it hurts, like, don't do it. But like if you notice the pain increases, stop. But if the pain is just, it decreases when you warm up, or it doesn't persist throughout the day, it's only when you kind of use it. It may not be an injury, it just may be like having used it, soreness. It's not. So like, for instance, I tore my hip, the labrum in my hip, and it hurt when I laid down, I sat, stand. When I wasn't using my hip specifically, it was this deep, sharp pain. Warming up didn't help. Like ibuprofen didn't help. Stretching, ice, heat, like nothing helped the pain because it was this structural thing. So like that's how we started to figure out this isn't just like a tight muscle. There's an injury in there somewhere. But I was an athlete at that point in time. Most people aren't athletes, so it's just the juice isn't worth the squeeze is the best way to say it. It's just not worth taking that extra risk, because that injury is just going to turn you away from being physically active.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our second question. If you are just beginning your fitness journey, is it best to begin with cardio, or could you go straight into weights? I think we kind of touched on that earlier too.
Yeah, so this one is it's definitely person by person. Do what you love. Like I study how like physical activity, and the majority of that physical activity we research is aerobic, but I personally don't do aerobic exercise other than walking. I don't find it enjoyable, so I just don't do it. But I'm physically active other ways. I do resistance training. There's forms of aerobic training I don't mind. I don't mind swimming. I don't mind biking, but there's more than just running or just like doing curls in the mirror. You can play a sport, like I mentioned before, a walking group. If you can find a group of people that want to play the same sport as you, you get the social aspect out of it as well. That's going to increase your enjoyment. You won't notice how hard you're working. So you think it's a nice, easy day, and you've been at vigorous activity for an hour or two as you get together and play ultimate frisbee or something on the weekend. So it's definitely find what you will do and then do it. Just start out at the lower end and gradually progress your way up. Even resistance training is not a sprint, it's a marathon. All these things are marathons. We want you to do them the rest of your life, ideally. So start small, make small increments to increase, either like how hard you're doing it, or how many days, or how long during a day you do it, and just keep building up your body. But find what you love and then just do that.
Okay. So, well, I'm not going to even ask what a good beginner exercise is, because it's just going to depend on preference.
Yeah.
Like
So
what you love.
Yeah. So like walking, that's a good one. If you've tried walking and you find, it's really boring or it's unsafe, I don't have sidewalks or a park, but you've got a local gym. You can go get on the elliptical. They've got Wi-Fi. You can bring in your phone or your tablet, or maybe they've got TV in there for you. So that way you can watch your shows, and now you're just walking while you're doing it. You can start on those pin selected weights instead of free weights. You can find like an early morning walking group, or here in Starkville, we've got like some handball courts. Like there's got to be somebody out there who also likes to do one of these sports. And if you can just find a good community or build that community, you're going to get a lot more people involved. You're going to be a lot happier about it. And One thing that we really like in the engagement side of things, or the promotion of this thing, is you kind of get this accountability, because we're not going to use the word guilt. You get an accountability group that you show up because they're showing up. And so it kind of helps to motivate you to show up and to get that physical activity in.
Most definitely. And if you're looking for something to do or looking for that group, I will encourage you to check with your local extension office, because we do have health promotion related programs that are related to physical activity, like walkaway. And here in Hancock County, we do strength and flexibility. Due to COVID, we have backed out of the library systems, but there are videos that are uploaded that you can look at as well. And I know that some of the libraries were trying to facilitate just a few meeting in their conference room at a time, or just some of the members were meeting outside of the library so that they could work together. So that's just a suggestion for you. Contact your local resource, your extension office. And hey, we're free. So just letting you know. So another question we have is, when your goal is to tone and to add more definition to your body, how do you dictate which exercise is best for you?
Ooh, okay. So to keep it very simple, because we can go down all the different avenues about how to get there. A lot of that is based upon your body fat percentage. All right. So we've all seen super defined people who are really, really big and muscular. And we've seen super defined people who are really lean, like these long distance runners, right? We've seen definition on all of them. So the big thing they have in common, because their physical activity is different, is they're modifying their diet. So if you're looking to, if you want professional advice, seek out a registered dietitian or a licensed nutritionist, and, just work with them. Just tell them you want to lose some body fat. That's going to help your muscles pop, get that definition. But it's a very complex thing to try to do alone. And these people are educated and they just want to help you. So I've dealt with them before personally. And the biggest thing I've learned is, don't lie to them when they tell you to write down what you ate the last week. Just track it. There's no judgment. They just want to help you get better. And they can't help you get better unless you tell them, because they're going to want to make small, modifiable changes to your diet based upon what you tell them. And if you tell them you have this perfect diet, they're going to modify that. But, if you tell them like, hey, I work all day, Monday through Friday, I work 12-hour shifts. Like, I just grab some fast food on the way home for the family. Like, they can help you make better, healthier decisions at that restaurant. So that's like the best way to go about increasing your definition, is decreasing your body fat percentage, and just work with a registered dietitian or a licensed nutritionist. I would say be careful. In Mississippi, they're both the same thing, and you have to be licensed to call yourself those. But in certain states, like I'm originally from Missouri, anybody could call themselves a dietitian, and they could tell you anything they wanted about nutrition, whether it was right or wrong, healthy or unsafe. But only people with those licenses could call themselves dietitians. Luckily in Mississippi, it's an interchangeable term, and they both do require that license. But just reach out and see if they can help you achieve your goals.
Thank you. I'm so happy you touched on that nutrition aspect, because so many think that they can just go to the gym, and don't get me wrong, they'll go in there and they're burning massive calories, but as soon as they leave, they're consuming massive calories. And it's like, if you're trying to have weight loss,
Yes, ma'am.
there
So I
needs to be
think,
more expenditure, rather
yeah,
than an intake. Yeah.
yeah. So we really don't burn as many calories as one might think doing physical activity. If you go to the gym for an hour and you do like resistance training, you're not burning 1,000 calories. Like you're not burning anywhere near 1,000 calories. If you run for an hour, you might be getting close, but there's a really good chance you're not anywhere near that. So, like, you might burn a couple hundred calories, so you might be able to snack on a few Oreos, but it's not, oh, I went to the gym today, I can go get like a birthday cake. Like, no, like you still gotta try to eat a little more natural, a little less fat. And it's hard out there. I'm a big person. I struggle with maintaining my weight, and it took a long time to learn to read nutrition labels. Like they aren't intuitively like, oh, this is how many calories are in this whole thing I'm going to eat. Instead, they've broken up into this whole thing. Everybody eats the whole thing, but we're going to break it up into 6.5 units. So I read it, I see it's 100 calories, like, oh, that's not bad, but it's actually 650 calories.
Right.
So it's definitely, the system isn't in our favor, especially with these nutrition labels. And that's why I recommend, if you can, get a professional's help. They just want to see you get better. It's, if you had a hole in your roof, you'd call a roofer. I just look at it kind of like that. Your body is one of the most important things you'll ever have in your life. If you need that help, go seek it out.
You're absolutely right. And if you need help trying to read that nutrition facts panel, that label that's on the back of your food, contact your local extension office, because guess what? We have programs for that too. So we're here. We're that resource that you're looking for in your community. And we wouldn't mind sitting down with you, teaching you one-on-one, or if you have a group, or church group, or just a group of friends who would just like to be educated on this information, feel free to reach out to your extension office. And even if your agent doesn't have this program, there's another agent in another county who is willing to assist you. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm sorry. You touched on something about people eat whatever and they go to the gym. You can't outwork a really bad diet. You would have to dedicate your whole day to just being physically active. So unless you are a professional athlete with all your bills and your means to survive and provide for your family are taken care of, and you can just be physically active all day, you cannot out-train or out-exercise a poor diet. It's just never going to happen.
So true. Never going to happen. And then you have to think about, the ramifications of that poor diet. Even though you may be maintaining a good physically, you look like you are in top-notch shape. But what is the inside like?
Yes,
If
ma'am.
you're just consuming nothing but fats, nothing but sugars, what's going on inside? And that's what's most important. I tell people all the time, don't just focus on the outer appearance and losing weight. Focus on your diet, because you want your body is holistic. You want the whole thing to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yay, I'm so glad we're touching on nutrition. Physical activity and nutrition. Hey, they're almost one in one. Like you can't do one without the other. Pretty dang important.
Yeah. And, like personally, it's the same thing with nutrition as it is with physical activity. Like I don't like every vegetable out there. I found the ones I like. And then within those, I found the way I like to cook it, or the way I can cook it easily to make it easy on myself. Because, I work too. It's it's super easy just to go to the McDonald's and get some food on the way home. But if I took the time, because I saw that I did need to start incorporating more natural foods into my diet. Like if I can learn to cook a whole bunch of broccoli in one pan with zero cleanup in 10 minutes, and I don't have to be in front of the broccoli for 9 of those minutes, perfect.
You're right. It's all about convenience. Honestly, I believe that's why so many people have poor diets. It's just, it's so inconvenient to go to work and come home extremely exhausted and then try to prepare a meal. And if it's something that's just easy and convenient to prepare, they're more likely to eat healthier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we have one more question. How important is taking a break from physical activity, or is it even necessary?
I would say try not to. Okay. Like I understand, like Miss Wash talked about her shoulder being sore. Maybe we don't stop all physical activity. Maybe we focus more on what we can do that doesn't hurt. So, like the leg, like maybe we walk a little bit more. Maybe we do leg press instead of bench press. Just because we are designed to move. It's only just recently that we've become very sedentary people as a world. So like we've been designed to move, so we need to keep moving. So I would say stop if there's an injury. Definitely don't push through an injury. But other than that, like if you're getting burnt out, like I just can't play another softball game. Like I'm just tired of playing slow pitch softball with my buddies from work. Find something else. Like don't just sit on the couch because you already put in all that great work to get up, to start building that physical activity. Maybe it's you want to play basketball instead. Maybe you're like, I've always wanted to be one of those people who have like one of those sit down bikes, or maybe I want to get into hiking or rock climbing, or there's so many physical activities you can do out there. Just find you one that's new and exciting. And then when you've lost that excitement for it, try to find it again in another one. Just because we just need to move some. 30 minutes a day isn't a lot of our day. If you think about it, that's like an episode of something on TV or Netflix or something. So if you can spend the time every day to watch one of those shows, you've got the free time to spend it going for a walk or playing with your kids, playing with your dog, getting to know your neighbors better, something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, I'm telling you, once you stop the physical activity, trying to get back on board is very difficult. And I know from experience, it's very difficult.
Yes.
But thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Booker.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And for those of you who tuned in, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next month. Next month, we will have Miss Kim Gowdy, and she will be accompanied by Miss Kathy Wilson of Excel by 5. And if you don't know about Excel by 5, I definitely encourage you to do a little research beforehand, because they are an absolute gem in our communities for our young children 0 to 5, as well as expectant mothers, parents, and parents of those children 0 to 5. And that will be on May 20th. And the title is Activities for Children. So again, thank you all so much for joining us for today's Q&A series. And I am Jennifer Joseph with Hancock County Extension, and I look forward to seeing you all next month.